Good morning, you guys. How is everyone doing? So, I just wanted to come on here and chat about the Charlie Franklin assassination because it has so many people divided. And I mean, just like on social media, basically, just on social media, right? Because basically, on the news outlets, what I've been seeing is a lot of condolences. And at the end of the day, a father was taken from a family and his children prematurely. And so, on that part, definitely I send my condolences because I feel like in America, the family unit is so broken. And I just mean a two-parent household. Whether you are, whatever the two parents are, or whatever, preference you have, it's still so many non two parent households where the children aren't getting the love of two parents and the structure of two parents that it has affected America. So I do sympathize with a wife and children losing their father for sure. Now, of course, before this assassination, I had never heard of Charlie Kirk. And so it kind of just was like, for me, it just was on my timeline, that a political person had been assassinated. And I was like, okay. And then the rhetoric started. People were saying, like, people have been posting memes with, if you ever seen Django with Samuel L. Jackson's, um, the role he played in Django, and then I've seen like him, and then him holding Charlie Kirk. Like, you know how they had when they had the old one, they changed the meme basically saying that people that sympathize for Mr. Kirk are cooning, or they ain't black, or they don't, just so much rhetoric. And here's my thoughts on it, right? So, I did take the time to watch one of his podcasts. So I actually watched the podcast that he did about 3 days ago about the Ukrainian refugee Arena. I'm sorry, I couldn't pronounce her last name right now off the top of my head. The one that got unalived on a train, right? And so I was listening to what he was saying, and yes, that was a horrible situation. I feel so bad for that girl. She was just coming home from work and someone took her life on a public train. And yes, a lot of people are going to see color when they look at that situation, but I more or less look at people like they're the bad spirits that they carry, mental health, whatever you want to say it. Dude was totally wrong for taking her life. He had no right to take her life. But as I'm watching this podcast, Charlie Franklin says if it would have been a black girl getting stabbed by a white man, that it would have been a totally different situation, right? Now, I come from the San Francisco Bay Area because Charlie Kirk's point on this podcast was that Arena was not getting a lot of coverage. Like the news media was not covering her story, but that kind of was false because I saw it all up and down my timeline and on news outlets. Now, was it reported the same day that it happened? I'm not sure, but I definitely saw a lot of coverage on that young lady's death on that train. So I totally disagree with him on that. But as I was saying, I come from the San Francisco Bay Area, and there was a black girl. Her name is Nia Wilson. And her friends were riding on the BART train, which is a public train in the Bay Area. It goes from San Jose to Oakland to San Francisco. It goes all over the Bay, right? And she was stabbed by a white guy who had mental issues. So he can't, and she did get a lot of coverage, right? But here we are years later. I haven't seen any personal ongoing reform with the way things go behind Nia Wilson's passing. So he can't say that it's because of color that no change has happened. Like, yes, it was unsafe to ride transportation right now, September 12th, 2025, because when you get on public transportation, you are dealing with the general public. They have weapons on them. They have mental issues. They are just disrespectful. How many videos have we seen of bus drivers getting spit on. Like, this stuff happens, and you never know when it's going to happen. And now that we have social media, everything is so televised. So, okay, so watching that podcast with Charlie Kirk, I saw a little bit of the black people rhetoric that people are referring to, right? So I'm like, okay, whatever. So let's go back to the situation. And that was just one view that I had of this guy. I just briefly watched that podcast, right? But I feel like a lot of people on these podcasts, they spew rhetoric to get views, right? Because if you see in my thumbnail, he did a seminar with Candace Owens, and she also says a lot of things that black people don't agree with. So I wouldn't sit here and say that he hates all black people, because if he hated all black people, right, he wouldn't have even been at this convention right here with Candace Owens. They wouldn't be able to sit down and talk. They wouldn't be able to go back and forth with their ideals. So the people that are on social media saying he hates all blacks, I can't roll with that narrative. Here's the proof in my background. One. Okay. And so for two, I think that you have to separate the person from their views. Like, his views weren't me and Charlie Kirk have different views. Like, but then you have to look at a person's upbringing, a person's background, and all those things shape who people become, right? So I was reading Wikipedia on his final moments before the assassination, and this is verbatim what Wikipedia is saying, because I want to comment on this. So, immediately before being shot, Kirk was discussing mass shootings. A student asks, "Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?" And Kirk's last words before being shot were his reply: "Counting or not counting gang violence." So, just looking at the response that he gave to this student before he was assassinated speaks volumes to me, because once again, here he is spewing rhetoric when he obviously didn't know the facts, because obviously he couldn't tell you how many mass shootings happen at schools, or mass shootings happened in the last 10 years, right? But he was quick to spew some rhetoric about gangs. And yes, you could see that as racially profiling, but there are all forms of gangs. There are Asian gangs, there are Mexican gangs, Hispanic gangs, black gangs. So then after I read that, right, I went back to his biography, and I see that he grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, right? And so we see statistically how Chicago is, right? Chicago is split into two. There's the rich and there's the poor they just mass looted a mall. Walmart is leaving the Chicago, and the Chicago area is like, the gang violence is bad, right? And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that gangs are out to loot or mass loot the mall, but what I'm saying is there definitely were some gangs involved in that looting, okay? There definitely were some gangs involved. And so you would think about, since he did grow up in the Chicago area, even if he didn't grow up in an area where gangs were, the news still comes on. You still hear about the statistics of. You look at those gangs and you say, oh, the black gangs are doing this in Chicago. Like, and if you grew up in Chicago seeing these things, of course it's going to give him a biased opinion on black people and how they live, right? And so is he a racist? I can't say, because I haven't spent one-on-one time with him. I mean, I want to say no, because why would he be dealing with Candace Owens? And she's clearly black, right? Even though some may say she's brainwashed or whatever, but she kind of just, to me, she thinks outside of the box. I don't agree with everything Candace Owens says, but nevertheless, here we are. But so for a student to ask him about mass shootings and him to refer to gang shootings, which has nothing to do with mass shootings, right? Because a mass shooter is one person armed out to take someone out. They are not a gang. They are out to take someone out because of their own rhetoric or ideals. So it's not the same. So to me, him answering that like that was deflection. I can't say if his answer to that question is what set off the person that assassinated him, but I can say that depending on what frame of mind anyone is, you could say that that was a racist comment for him to make right before he passed. Because what does gangs have to do with mass shootings? Once again, a mass shooter is one person going out to an event, going out to a store, and planning on killing someone based on their own thoughts and ideals. I think that a lot of what he says, what Mr. Kirk had said in the past, was a lot of rhetoric. And you have to like read between the lines, but you have to know that too, that the people that do spew this rhetoric based on how they were raised, based on the news they grow up listening to, based on how they see a group of people, yes, these ideals do shape that person. Yes, and especially if they are political, they can get into a position to change some laws based on what they believe. But this is our system that has been put into place that we already abide by. If you get enough votes, you can be promoted as a political person. People are mad and people are upset, but are you then going out to run for mayor? Are you then going out to create organizations to stop certain people's way of thinking that you feel like is harming a certain group of people? No. People are just on social media spewing rhetoric. I've seen so much stuff from they're glad he's gone to one black lady was on there crying, talking about we need peace in America. Like, everybody is going to have their, and we do need peace in America. There has to be a way to settle things without killing each other. I believe that wholeheartedly. But everyone isn't in the mental capacity to do that. Some people are just raised on hate, raised on rhetoric, and all they see is their way. I don't know the specific reason as to why he was assassinated. Was it because of the rhetoric he spewed? I can tell you that it was a non-black that assassinated him, right? So it's like, I do feel like black people will get on social media and they will either say they sympathize with his family and his wife, or they'll say he got what he got. But none of them are the actual person that's going out and doing the physical backlash to what he was saying. It's like people just get behind this computer screen and they start spewing more hate. I don't hate the man. I don't know his personal struggles, what he's been through in life, and what he has experienced, seen, or what has shaped him to be who he is. So I wouldn't say I hate the man. Just because I don't agree with some of his political views doesn't mean I hate him. I also saw another quote where he was speaking, and they had asked, and they had asked him, you know, like, basically it was, the gist of the conversation was, why do people keep saying that black people keep saying that the white man has oppressed them? Like, it's been 100 years now, nobody could change anything. And actually, to an extent, you are right, but things have changed. We see more black entrepreneurs, we see black owned banks, we see maybe about like 10 years ago or so, they had the first supreme black woman judge. Like, things are changing, yes, but there is still a system in place that does hold black people back. There is a system to where no one is showing them how an education can get you out of the living environment you is. No one is, no, that, like, for instance, this is just my example. Let's take a student, a C or D student, right? No, who was bridging the gap to tell this student, no, don't drop out of school. You can still go to college. It may take a little longer. You may have to do community classes. You may need a tutor. Like, a lot of in inner ghetto, or whatever you want to call it. So for the lack of terminology, students are not getting the resources to show them how they can get out of that situation. Other demographics of people have those resources handed to them at school, even when they are a C or D student that just ain't applying themselves. A lot of the inner city kids ain't getting those opportunities, and it is a systematic problem. It is. It definitely is. There's no one there. I don't know whether they're afraid to go into the hood of Chicago or to go into the hood of Detroit and talk to those students, because they looking at those students like, oh, excuse me, y'all. Oh my goodness. Hold on. I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm sorry, guys. Okay. Systematically, Yes, black people have been freed, or people in minorities have been freed, but there are still systems in place that keep people down, even from being racially profiled by the police to people being found hung in southern states that are black. I even think about the black guy that was jogging in his neighborhood and the white guys followed him in a truck and then they gunned him down just because he was running in a neighborhood where he paid rent, taxes, water, PG, and so it's still happening today. And I think that with Charles Kirk, he was more like spewing rhetoric for the votes, honestly, or spewing rhetoric to get the podcast views. Because when you spew rhetoric, you do get more people watching your channel. Yes, you do. And you guys know it. And so, like I said, I don't personally hate the guy. I think that I don't know why he was so targeted towards saying stuff about black people and their demographics, because he was not black. He did not grow up black, even though he grew up in a Chicago suburb and may have seen stuff on the news or may have even experienced something in school. I don't know. I'm just assuming that doesn't because he cannot walk in the black person's shoes, he can never understand what it is to be systematically oppressed. And so because he can never understand that, what it is to walk in the shoes of a black person, of course he can spew rhetoric and not feel no sympathy and not be apologetic. But at the end of the day, America is built on freedom of speech, right? That's his right to spew that rhetoric if he wants. Just like it's the right of the people to have freedom of religion. These are the rights that, just like it's a right to bear arms. It's the right to bear arms, and it's a right to take someone's life if it's self-defense with outlying circumstances. You can't just outright the assassinator was wrong. You cannot just take someone's life because you don't like what they are saying. What they are saying is their right in America. In other countries, it's different. You can't say what you want. You have to riot to say what you like. We in America have some privileges that what I like to call are a two-edged sword. It be because Charles Kirkland had the American right. Charlie Kirk had the American right to spew his rhetoric. Someone came along and assassinated him because of the words he was saying. But that is a problem on the whole. It's the same thing that's going on in the streets of the hood. People are unaliving people because of words that they have said to each other. Like, so whether it's political words or whether it's words on the street, there's an inherent spirit inside of people that makes people want to unalive someone who is saying something that they don't want to hear or what they don't agree with. And I don't think that is right. Like, it is our right to say what we want to say. But as humans, those are just laws put into place. As humans, we have to understand that the things that we say can affect someone and make them want to take our life. And then that's when, like, and so some people are saying, oh, he's a martyr. Oh, he's not a martyr. I believe he was a martyr for what he believed in. I believe he was saying these things, and that's what he stood on, and he's always been that one way. And because of him standing on what he believed in, he was assassinated. So, and then a part of me also too feels like, is this some type of social experiment? And I don't mean like him losing his life, but I mean as far as like, now let's say if Trump were next, you could see right now how people will react on social media if Trump were next. You can see right now how people will react. Some people are going to be on there celebrating Trump losing his life. They're going to call him a racist. Some people are going to be crying. Like, and I don't wish this on Trump because I don't wish this on nobody. But I'm saying this stuff that's happening around us is like a pre-liar of what could be to come and how Americans are going to react. But we as American people, we're always going to be divided on issues. We're never going to be able to come in peace and everyone hold hands. It's not going to happen in America. It's like, it's not, all we can do is try to abide by the laws and vote on laws that make each of us feel like we have a say. We'll abide to them. You know what I'm saying? And that's even trying to have some normalcy in the American government and in our way of life. But there's still going to be people who are going to feel like because I have a weapon, I can use it and take your life because of what you're saying or because of what you said or because I don't agree with what you said. Like, but we don't know. We personally can never know the person with a weapon in their hand, what they have been through, what makes them want to load that weapon up and take someone's life, all off of words. And I just think about when we were kids and how we came up like, oh, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. But people still let words affect them to the point where they will unalive someone. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Charlie Kirk. Whether they have to become a martyr because of the things that they were saying and what they believed in. So as a black person, I don't hate the guy. When I looked at the picture of him and he just had the little one in 2024, like, I feel sad because at the end of the day, he was a productive, even though he's spinning rhetoric that I might not agree with, he's still a productive citizen at working, taking care of his family, his wife and kids, like kind of an example of what we should be aspiring for. I've said stuff before. I've said stuff about men. You know what I'm saying? So, like, negative stuff. So, do I deserve to be unalive because I believe what I believe about how men are? No. It's not the American way to take someone's life because they don't have the same political views as you. It is your right to get some signs together, to get a bullhorn, to go there and protest, to make a video on social media that could go viral. Yes, those are your rights. I don't think that you need to necessarily take the step to take someone's life to get your point across. Because as one Charlie Kirk passes on, another one will be raised up with the exact same views, and that's gonna spew the exact same rhetoric. You don't stop the machine when one screw becomes a loose. It's like, okay, you think that you won the battle because you unalived him based on his political views? No, there are still, there's 10 more waiting in the wings. And you can't kill every human on this earth. So what is the point of you unaliving somebody based on what they are saying or based on their political views? If you really want to make a difference in the change, then get your butt up and go get into Congress, get into, become a political activist. That is the way you change things. So yes, I do feel bad that this man lost his life based on what he believed in, no matter what it was that he believed in. Everybody trying to make it into be a color thing, but you don't know how he was raised. You don't know the thing. And we all have these core moments in our life to where we see something and it sticks with us forever. And it does determine the choices that we make 10 years later, 20 years later. Hi, Wanda. Lucy, I like to say hi to my people. Thank you for watching. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to fault the guy. You know, God rest his soul. I don't agree with some of the stuff he was saying, but I'm not going to sit here and get on my social media and celebrate his passing. Like, that is so immature and childish. And it does show, just like they're saying that he didn't believe in empathy. And now people are using his words in his passing. Like, we don't know what he's been through, and we don't know how he was raised. We don't know what his core, things were that shaped who he was today. So how are you, the person that's saying, I don't have empathy either, any better than what he was saying? You're not. And people fail to take self-accountability for those things. So, like I said, he can't jump into a black skin and see what it is to be systematically oppressed. So of course he wouldn't understand it. And so what if it's been 100 years since black people have been freed? They're not free. They still are enslaved to this system that tells them you can't be this and you can't be that. Even with us having a black president, that's just a face. That's just a Band-Aid. Obama was a Band-Aid on a problem. Period. Even with having a black woman vice president, Kamala was just a Band-Aid on a systematic problem that is there. Definitely. And so That's why I see the division, but if you really look at within your own self core and ask yourself, why am I celebrating this man's death, or why am I sad about this man's death, you will probably find out more. You will probably be more likely to be forgiving or to stop spewing so much hate behind his death once you really get down to why do you feel like it's okay to celebrate someone's death. But these are things that people within themselves need to think about. Like, it is our American right to say what we want to say, to get, like, we're not supposed to say hate speech. So we find little ways to get around it, to say things. But at the end of the day, if that's what's in your heart, that's what's in your heart. It still does not make it right for anyone to take anyone's life. I don't like how it's being celebrated on social media. I don't care. Like, I haven't even gotten to, like, I'll see friends who've been posting rhetoric, right? But I don't even care to engage in that, because I know that that person is just speaking from their ignorance. You know what I mean? And, you know, even when I saw a quote where he said something about, like, if he sees a black pilot, he want to make sure he got credentials or something like that. But that actually was funny to me, because the pilots that were busted drinking while driving planes were not black. So once again, it seems like he was a guy who just liked to spew rhetoric to get engagement, to see like to seem like he's just going against the grain. And like I said, we don't know why he was pushing that agenda. Only he can know inside his mind, and we're not here to, and he's not here to, for us to probe his mind anymore. But even that was some rhetoric, because once again, the pilots that got arrested for being drunk while driving, or showing up at the airport drunk or smelling of alcohol, were non-black pilots. So, people, stop letting other people's views or words make you want to unalive someone. That's what I got from this point. Use that feeling that you have to protest. Protests have been proven to make changes. Get out there and recruit people to change the laws that you feel like aren't right then. But taking someone's life does not change. It's not going to change the program. It's not going to change the systematic program that is going on. One passes on and 10 more rise up. Like, you know what I mean? And everyone is so divided. Instead of taking a mature look at what the situation really was and deciphering it for what it really is, and taking the hate up out their heart. And I don't like that about the American way. I think that the American way should be that we can disagree, but we can disagree, but we can still get along. We can disagree, and you can still be able to walk away from that conversation with your life. That should be a First Amendment. That should be the American way. You can disagree, but you can still walk away with your life. Period. I don't know. This is just my rant. Like I said, it's just troubling me how people are going back and forth on social media celebrating a family man's death at that. Like, to me, it's mind-blowing. It's not right. I don't like it. You know, but I just wanted to give my thoughts on it. You know, like I said, rest in peace to the guy. We didn't have to have the same views for me to say that I don't think his life should have been taken for believing what he believed in. So yes, I do see him as a martyr. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? I'm black. I see the systematic oppression that we go through. I sympathize with that because I am black. But I do not want someone to lose their life for speaking words against what I believe. Period. Okay? Anyways, I'm gonna get off this video. I just wanted to speak on that because it's just really been on my mind. And I'll talk to you guys later, YouTube. Bye.